Welcome back. You are watching the budget verdict, and joining us right now is the DPIIT Secretary, Mr. Rajesh Singh, and we will be speaking to him about all the announcements in the budget with regard to research and innovation, with regard to startups, Gati Shakti, FDI. Remember, the Finance Minister termed FDI as first develop for India. And also all the ease of doing business measures in the budget. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me begin by asking you, in terms of announcements, this budget has stuck to the path of fiscal discipline, how a vote on account should be. And this is a point that has been taken note of by ratings agencies, including Fitch this morning. What is the message that India is sending out with the tone and tenor of this budget to foreign investors?
Parikshit, good to be with you. I think there are two overriding themes of this budget. One is that India will continue on the path of fiscal consolidation. And number two, that while doing so, it will continue to give primacy to infrastructure investment. As you would have seen, despite a high base, there is a further 11% increase in our capex expenditure. There are also two separate windows for the state governments for providing them 50-year interest-free loans, one of 1,30,000 crores and another for 75,000 crores. In addition, as you mentioned, there is a focus on hard infrastructure in roads, rail, etc., all based on the PM Gati Shakti principles to ensure that we are able to plan our infrastructure proactively, harmoniously, and while ensuring multimodal connectivity.
Right. Now, improving connectivity, reducing the cost of logistics, this has been a priority for the government and an ask of foreign companies who are looking to set up manufacturing in India. How do you think this budget will give a further impetus to the Gati Shakti program and in terms of better connectivity and reducing the logistics cost, something that has been a priority for you as well?
As you said, Parikshit, DPIIT is very much focused on logistics efficiency, and the recent surveys that we've done with the help of NCAR based on the national accounts data shows that there is some improvement when it comes to logistics costs coming down in India. In the current budget, again, the focus is on roads, on ports, on highways, and on specific railway corridors, all of which have been planned on PM Gati Shakti to ensure better multimodal connectivity, enhancement of the modal share of railways, and ensure that in areas where there are congested corridors on the railways, where there is key movement of minerals, etc., in all of these areas, we are able to expand and upgrade our capacity.
Right. I'd like to speak to you about the focus on R&D. This budget has set aside a 1 lakh crore corpus for research and development in sunrise sectors, especially deep tech. What kind of sectors, technologies is this fund likely to support? How is it going to work? Mr. Singh, if you can give us some insight into the working of this fund.
Okay, so as you've mentioned, these are the areas like deep tech in particular and a lot of the startup working with new ideas. There is a requirement for what we call patient capital or patient funds, which are long-term funds which know that the monetization may come right after a good period of gestation where R&D intensive work goes on. Now, there are two sort of elements here. One is this deep tech fund for defense. Here again, if you see the example of other countries, the DARPA in the US, a lot of the spin-off civilian use technologies have come out of the defense space. Secondly, the 1 lakh crore fund, which will provide funding for R&D, including by the private sector and by startups, that again meets this gap and requirement for patient capital in this area. We hope that the private sector can leverage this money to enhance their R&D investment in India, which is quite low, frankly, at the present moment. We hope this availability of this kind of patient capital will really lead to India becoming increasingly a much more innovation-led economy.
Right. But in terms of modalities, do you think this fund will be distributed across ministries depending on the nature of the technology, or there will be one fund for all sectors?
I think the modalities are still being worked out, but the intent is very clear that we know that there is this gap when it comes to availability of patient capital in these areas. And the modalities, of course, presumably will be worked on by the Defense Ministry for the Deep Tech Fund for Defense. And for the innovation-led, I'm sure it will be in consultation with the concerned ministries, including the Department of Science and Technology as well.
Right. Now, when it comes to the startups, what is the broad allocation for the Startup Seed Fund, the Startup India program? Are we going to see an actual larger allocation in the July budget when it comes out?
Well, I mean, that is what we've retained for the current year is a 10% enhancement of our budget outlays for most of our schemes, including the Seed Fund and the Fund of Funds scheme. But let me tell you that we have been working for some time on a deep tech policy as well for startups in India. And that once that comes through, we would look at possibilities of funding as well. But those are, still at the consultation stage, so I wouldn't like to sort of make any commitments. But deep tech is an area which we are actively working on, recognizing the kind of patient capital that is required for funding deep tech startups in particular.
Right. So you're saying that deep tech policy for startups is going to be a priority going forward. I would also like to ask you about the PLI schemes. As far as the budgetary estimates are concerned, for the next fiscal, it's a 6,200 crore budgetary estimate versus a 4,645 crore budgetary estimate for the last fiscal. How is this money going to be allocated across schemes? Which are some of the sectors or industries you expect to see the highest investments from, or the private capex cycle taking off?
Yeah. So actually this allocation for PLI schemes is already distributed among the concerned 10 departments which are implementing these 14 PLI schemes. For example, DPIIT is implementing a PLI scheme for white goods, for which a certain amount of money has been put this year. For the next year, I think it's about 165 crores. Similar allocations have been individually made for the different departments. But let me tell you, the PLI scheme in any case is a commitment from the government based on the performance, criteria that are to be met by the respective companies and enterprises which have signed up under the scheme. So wherever they are meeting the performance criteria, funds will not be an issue. That will be made available if required through supplementaries. So the issue really is how fast they can go, and that accordingly, within the overall kitty of about $26 billion, we will be able to provide the required budgetary support.
Right. Recently, you've had consultations with the industry, and the sense that we get is that the government is open to making certain changes in certain PLI schemes, such as textiles, food processing, and pharmaceuticals. We also spoke to member Niti Aayog Arvind Virmani very recently, and he said while the intent behind the PLI scheme is good, is correct, the model may not suit all sectors actually. Do you agree with this thought? Give us the sense of the review that you've carried out so far, Mr. Singh, and what are some of the PLI schemes that may see changes according to you?
So our view is that the PLI scheme so far has delivered very good results in some sectors. There are other sectors where it is still in the gestation period, so the results will hopefully follow once the gestation period is over. There are some minor corrections and tweaking and certain additional flexibility requirements in some schemes which are at the consultation stage in government and which will hopefully happen in the not too distant future. But in general, we are happy with the scheme. We feel that it is designed well. It is generating tremendous investments. Already an investment commitment of 1 lakh crore, exports of almost 3 lakh crores, and sales of almost 9 lakh crores have been leveraged through the scheme. So we feel the scheme is just getting started and it is already delivering fairly good results. But wherever some minor tweaking is required, of course, the government will do it as part of the concurrent evaluation of such schemes.
So which sectors are you most excited about, Mr. Singh, where you expect the private capex cycle to take off in a robust manner in the coming fiscal?
I think I'm excited about several of the sectors. I wouldn't like to single out one. Of course, mobile manufacturing is one sector which everybody talks about, but in pharma we are producing a lot of products that we've never produced in India before. A lot of medical devices are being produced for the first time in India. In food processing, we are creating and leveraging investment in very small and backward districts of the country, along with a good amount of employment generation. So yes, I'm in white goods, for example. Again, we are seeing tremendous improvement in the technology for air conditioners, for example, where we are hopefully going to bring super efficient air conditioners into the country. So I'm excited about many of these sectors, and I'm sure this is going to eventually transform the manufacturing landscape of this country.
My final question would be about the FAME scheme and the electric vehicle manufacturing sector as well. I know FAME comes under the Department of Heavy Industries. There was a lot of anticipation in the industry about a FAME 3 policy. What is the government's current thinking about supporting the electric vehicle ecosystem? Because we believe that a new EV manufacturing policy to incentivize foreign electric vehicle makers was also being considered. Give us a sense of the larger push towards electric vehicles, Mr. Singh.
I won't talk about policy specifics immediately, particularly those that are on the anvil, but let me say that in general, when it comes to e-vehicles, we are providing, and we have been providing, a combination of incentives on the supply side through the PLI scheme for auto and auto components in the e-vehicle space, and that is combined on the demand side with the FAME scheme, which, as you said, there could be a FAME 3 also on the anvil eventually. But in terms of ensuring that the energy transition, government as a whole is following a policy of a combination of incentives and mandates to ensure that India is able to meet its NDC goals, not only as per its commitments, but even ahead of its commitments. But that is the broad policy landscape under which the government is taking various initiatives. But individual and specific initiatives, and when will they come through, that I wouldn't like to sort of venture, because that is part of the government approval cycle.
All right. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining us on the program, giving us your view on how this budget is expected to give a fillip to foreign direct investments and how global investors and companies should see ease of doing business in India.
For more news and updates, all you need to do is follow CNBC TV18 on all of our digital platforms.